Hey guys, good morning. I hope you all are doing well today. So I thought we'd do a bit of a casual chat. I have some nice warming cinnamon tea here today, and I thought we would discuss 7 things I wish I knew before becoming pagan. Because I know a lot of you guys are just starting out on this path, so I thought I'd share a bit about my own experience. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing I wanted to share is there isn't one way to do things. So paganism in general, I think, can be pretty overwhelming. And I think when I was starting out, I was really wanting, one book or one person that could teach me how to be pagan. But that really doesn't exist because in paganism, it's a huge variation of practices and beliefs, and you're not going to find one right way or one easy answer on how to become pagan. And at first glance, that was really overwhelming as a newbie. But now I really find that as one of the major strengths towards paganism, because since there is so flexibility in what you believe and what you do, your practice can evolve and change as you do. So yeah, that was definitely something I wasn't expecting when I was starting out, but it ended up being one of the great things about paganism, in my opinion. Okay, number 2 is, in general, labels don't mean anything. So when I was starting out with paganism, I would attend a lot of meetup groups, pagan pride events, things like that. And I would run into people and they would introduce themselves and say, oh, I'm a high priestess of, or I'm a high priest. And I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Tell me more. But then I realized there isn't any formalized structure for the most part for paganism. While there are exceptions like certain branches of Wicca that do have a more hierarchical system where you graduate up. But there's nothing preventing anyone from just saying they're a high priest or a high priestess. So you want to take any labels people give you with a grain of salt. Because just because someone says they're a high priestess, they could have just be pulling that out of their ass, There isn't really any structure or formalized system for granting titles. So definitely keep that in mind if you're starting out, to be a little bit skeptical when someone just shouts that they're a high priest or a high priestess of blah, blah, blah. Number 3. I really did not expect that my practice would evolve so much. When I started out, I was maybe 14, 15. I was just dipping my toes into Wicca, and that was the path that I started with. That's a path that many people start with, and there's nothing wrong with Wicca. I gained a lot of wisdom from being Wiccan. Though over time, I started to evolve away from Wicca and more towards paganism in general. And that's something I didn't really expect. When I started out, I was really into witchcraft and doing Wiccan rituals. And now I do a lot less witchcraft. I don't really do kind of the classic Wiccan rituals anymore where you cast the circle, you call in the elements. I'm kind of trying to figure out a different system for myself. And that's something that has really changed as I have grown and evolved. So it was not something I expected. My practice today really looks nothing like it did when I started out. The 4th thing I wish I knew is how much research this practice would involve. And in actuality, it's one of my favorite things about being pagan because I'm a bit of a history nerd and I love the research. That's why a lot of my content is research-based or educational-based. But this is really a practice that's going to require you to read, to study, to talk to others, to continue to expand your worldview and your knowledge base. And I think that's really exciting. It's something that I really didn't understand when I was starting out, but I've really grown to appreciate the fact that this practice involves a lot of research and hard work. And you're not going to get everything right the first time. I still make mistakes, definitely a lot. But it's one way that keeps your brain active, right? Like, this spiritual practice is going to keep you learning, keep you studying. And I think overall that's a good thing. The fifth thing I wish I knew before becoming pagan is that in general, I find pagans are often like anti-organization. I wish there was a better way to phrase this, but I feel like getting a group of pagans together is kind of like herding cats in a lot of ways. Do you hear that noise? I'm so sorry. I live in an apartment complex and it sounds like people are hammering something nearby. Can't control that, sorry. But anyway, so yes, pagans in general I find to be anti-organization. I feel like a lot of pagans don't really like rules and hierarchies. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that many people become pagan after they were in a previous religion like Christianity that has a lot of rules and hierarchy. So they're wanting a spiritual system that is completely opposite from that, which I think is fine, to a certain extent. I think the freedom you get with paganism is wonderful, but I do think this aversion to organization can occasionally isolate us. And it's one of the reasons that there are so many solitary pagans out there, including myself. And I do think there is a time and a place for organizations, and maybe down the road, pagans will start kind of rebuilding some of these groups and organizations, and maybe not. Time will tell. The sixth thing I wish I knew before becoming pagan is that being pagan can be lonely sometimes. And unlike mainstream religions, pagan groups often don't meet as regularly. And that's something I sometimes wish pagans would do, because I would love to have a regular meeting or ritual or group that I could meet with, So there are a ton of paid, often witchy workshops that you can find on meetup.com, which are great. But if you want to do that regularly, it gets expensive, and there isn't always a great place to go to as a pagan to meet other pagans. Of course, now during COVID times, it's even harder. But even for Wiccans or witches, a lot of times you're looking for a coven, and that's something I did a while ago. Especially when I was living in Chicago, I was really looking for a coven. And even if you're actively seeking out a coven, there's no guarantee that you'll find one that's within, a good distance from where you live, or that you find one that's even accepting new members, or you find one where they might be accepting new members, but you don't really jive with them, or they don't jive with you. So it can be really tricky to find a good group of other pagans that meet regularly. So that's something to keep in mind. And for me, I have definitely felt lonely as a pagan. Sometimes I wonder that it doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally and recently there's been some popular pagan YouTubers that have moved over and became Christian and completely denounced their paganism. Part of me wonders if part of that has to do with them really wanting a stronger overall in-person community, and if that's the reason they left paganism. I don't know, but it's something to keep in mind. For me, one of the reasons I created this YouTube channel is so I could find more community, so I wouldn't feel so isolated as a pagan alone in Texas. So that's one of the great things about social media now that didn't exist when I was starting out. So definitely utilize that. If you are also a pagan who's feeling a bit lonely, join us on YouTube, create a channel, or find me on Instagram. So the last thing I wish I knew before becoming pagan is how much this practice would profoundly change my life. I feel like paganism has helped me connect with nature and the cycles of the seasons so much in a way that I feel like I look forward to the seasonal changes that occur. I'm paying attention to that, and I don't feel like time flies by because through paganism, I'm actively noticing the subtle shifts in the wheel of the year. And that's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed that aspect of paganism. I feel like paganism has also helped me connect with my ancestors and learn about their history. And back to that point about how much research this practice involves, being pagan has also opened my mind to so many different ways of looking at the world, so many different cultures, and I'm very honored to be able to continue to learn about that. And lastly, I definitely did not expect that being pagan would become like my full-time job. I used to have a normal 9-to-5, but now I do this full-time. I make YouTube videos, I do tarot readings, tarot lessons, and I do business coaching for other pagans and spiritual entrepreneurs and helping them with their websites and their marketing and all that kind of stuff. And that's something I really didn't imagine I would be doing as a career. It's weird the way the world works sometimes, but it's wonderful that I get to dedicate so much of my week towards paganism. And I think this spirituality, this religion, has provided me so many amazing things. And next, I'd love to hear from you guys. I know some of you guys are starting out. Some of you guys have been pagan for years and decades. I want to know some of the things you wish you knew before becoming pagan. And do you relate with any of the points I brought up, or was your experience completely different? So definitely let me know down in the comments. And if you're new here and you like this video, please consider subscribing. We do videos every week, and we are doing happy hours on Friday as well. So yeah, thanks guys for watching today, and I'll see you later. Bye.